Friday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you as we wrap up another week of shows on our McFiles network. We're grateful to have you tonight. This is a breaking news night on several fronts, and we have some sad news to report. First of all, 42 people have been confirmed dead, and this monstrous biblical storm. I'm going to talk more about that at the end tonight. And some thoughts about that, what has happened to this nation. It's been one of the worst, probably 48 hours of weather we've had this year, reaching all the way up into the Ohio Valley. And speaking of the Ohio Valley, I'm grateful to have my dear friend James Akers on the line with us tonight. We got something else that's breaking that we're going to be talking to you about, and that is Israel and Hezbollah. Buddy, it's good to hear from you tonight. I understand that Helene has reached her tentacles up to Ohio. You're without power tonight, and there's been a lot of damage. What is going on in southern Ohio? What has been flooding mainly, or winds, or both?
It's been a lot. It's been a lot of wind, and this little town where I live, power's still out in the town. They're getting it back on slowly, but I think part of the problem was that. Duke Energy here probably sent a lot of their crews south in anticipation. You know, nobody predicted that it would reach up this far and cause the problems it's caused. So
yeah, I know. I agree with that. I don't think the weather people expected it. There was some indication that they knew this thing was going to keep the energy. This was a Category 4. These semantics about whether it's a 4 or 5 ultimately don't matter. I mean, if it's a 140 mile an hour hurricane, James, it's gonna destroy homes and people's lives. And but this was a multifaceted storm. I've heard all day today, into yesterday, even last night, the fastest moving, the strongest, and the largest hurricane that this region of the country, where it came in on, has seen in 120 years. And both my sister, my brother, my son, my grandkids, and even myself to a degree, we were spared last night because this thing shifted east. But when it got inland last night, it did more damage today, looks like, in Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. Lexington, Kentucky was reporting winds over 60 to 70 miles an hour, and then your part of the world in Ohio. So it seems like this thing had a lot of energy still left even after it came on shore. That's a biblical storm, my friend. That's almost 8 states, if you think about it, that it covered once it came inland.
And I hope I'm wrong about this, but I think this is sort of what we're going to have to get used to as weather patterns change, and as I hate to say it, that God removes His hand of blessing over this country. I mean, the Bible talks about these types of things being a direct correlation to sin in the leadership of a country, and I think we are going to see over the months ahead. I hope I'm wrong, but weather is just going to go absolutely crazy, and it is in my view, a reaction of the sin of the land vomiting up the sin of the people.
Buddy, I tell you, I cannot. I don't know who said that to me today. There was somebody else that almost took the words out of your mouth. I almost thought I was listening to an echo. I mean that, and I mean that very respectfully, because James, I think that's exactly what's happening, and I got a connection to this. I'll share it right now. We'll discuss it later. But Helene means torch, and it means a torch bearing light. And today, I heard a snippet of Benjamin Netanyahu's speech at the UN, and we've got the article we're going to read after we talk to you tonight. But in that speech, he literally says Israel is a torch that will never go out. And Dory West, who is a dear friend, and she's also a moderator, she sent me something this morning, because we talked about this on our Bible study, and it went right over my head until she mentioned it, but our Statue of Liberty holds a torch, holds a torch. And
Yeah.
what I surmise from that is that what Benjamin Netanyahu said in connection with what he's saying was that the nations of the world had a choice to choose a blessing or a curse. And
Yes.
it's no strange phenomenon to me, and it's not gotten me off coincidence that 24 hours, just 24 hours before this storm exploded in the Gulf, Joe Biden was at the same United Nations condemning Israel and basically trashing her publicly, like the American government always does, basically telling the world that it was not going to support Israel in its war against Hezbollah. There is a wing of the Democrat Party tonight that is still screaming for an arms embargo against Israel. There are people in this country wanting Benjamin Netanyahu arrested. Anti-Semitism is raging. We got a clip of a school up in the Northeast that was marching just yesterday for Hezbollah. And James, that is going to bring judgment. And I'm glad you said something about the leadership. I've been reading the book of Jeremiah, and in my devotional reading today, God was telling the prophet, literally, I'm holding Israel accountable because of the king, and because the leadership and the nobles and the priests and the prophets disobeyed God, the whole nation was going into captivity. And brother, I tell you what you just said to me, I felt a little jolt in the heart, because I think the Lord's speaking that to us. And I think this hurricane was a message, James. At the very minimum, it's a warning. It's a warning. We got a choice of a blessing or a curse. It's tied to Israel, though. In many facets, it's tied to how are we handling that nation tonight. And we're not handling her too good.
No, I agree with that. I watched Netanyahu's speech in its entirety today. And I'm telling you, that guy, you can quibble about whether you agree with all of his decisions or not, but he marched straight into the lion's den, put his finger in their face,
Yes, he did.
and said, this institution is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
And he raked them over the coals. Of course, all of the Arab delegations got up and walked out as soon as he walked to the podium. That's sort of their way of responding to somebody telling the truth. But he laid it out clearly. We want to be, Israel wants to be a blessing to everybody in the region. And you can choose to work with us and allow us to be a blessing, or if you don't, it'll bring a curse on your people. And he said straight away, we are not going to bow to this pressure that these people are bringing until we get our people to return peacefully to their homes in northern Israel. And at the same time, and let me compare that. I saw snippets of Biden's address.
Yes.
Where he said he really wanted to stay, but for the good of the country, he stepped down. Everybody in that building knew that was a bold-faced lie.
Absolutely it was. Absolutely it was. And
everybody in there knew that he was lying through his teeth. And so you have this juxtaposition of the American president telling everybody what they know is not true, and then you have the Israeli prime minister telling them what is the truth, and none of them want to hear it.
None of them want to hear, James. That's right, buddy. I couldn't.
The juxtaposition between those two speeches just, to me, is absolutely astounding. I know there are a lot of people that disagree with me, and maybe with good cause, but
I don't.
But I just thought that was a remarkable comparison. And we are receiving all of these heads up, all of these warnings from God, to turn and to, turn to Him and repent. and he will heal our land, and our leaders are going
right.
just the opposite
right.
direction, and they are thumbing their nose in the face of God and all of his principles and statutes. And my friend, you know, we are in for a tough road ahead, I'm afraid.
Well, James, it's funny, and I go back to Jeremiah. God gave Israel, Judah, really, it was mainly about Judah, the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom had already been taken captive by Syria when all this was going on. But Jeremiah, up to even a year before they went into Babylonian captivity, God was pleading, up to even maybe 2 months before Nebuchadnezzar laid siege on the city for the first time. God was warning her, begging her, turn around, that he would give her mercy, he would grant her repentance. And then there came this point where the line had been crossed. And I'll give you a great example of something that happened. He had told the leadership through Jeremiah to let the slaves go. And they did. And when they did, what happened was that Egypt had started coming against Nebuchadnezzar, and the Babylonian pursuit of Israel stopped. It sort of ceased for a minute. And when the leadership of the country saw that the pressure was off, you know what they did? They went back out and took the people that they had let go of slavery, they put them back into slavery. It angered God so much that he basically told Jeremiah, I don't care what they do from this point on, the judgment is set. My question to you tonight is a spiritual one, and then we're going to get into what's going on with Hezbollah. How close are we to crossing a line in this country we're not coming back from? I'm very slow to say we've crossed it yet, because I still believe there's mercy in the Lord. I believe that God wants to do the right thing by America. He's always wanted to do the right thing, and whatever he ultimately does, James, in my opinion, will be right. But I do believe that he's still holding his hand out to a wayward nation, just like a father would a wayward son. And I just believe if we would heed that call, we can still turn this around. We can see a move of God in this nation, and turn from our wickedness, turn from this baby killing, this corruption, this monstrosity that we have created in this sinful cauldron. And you're right, it's why the earth is vomiting. It's literally vomiting on itself. These hurricanes are getting more intense. These tornadoes are getting more intense. These earthquakes, pestilence, drought, all of these things are warnings from God to turn us around. But it's like it's fallen on deaf ears, just like it fell on deaf ears in Israel's day and Judah's day. And God ultimately had to give them over to a foreign power, because that's the only way he could get their attention. And even then, they refused to listen to him. How close are we to that here? If I don't know if there's an answer to that, but I'm just curious what your take is on that.
Well, my takes, we are rapidly approaching that spiritual red line. God is such a good God and such a patient God.
Yes, he is.
But there comes a point when the cry's going up from his people, move the heart of God. And what we are seeing is leadership in all of its many facets, especially the judiciary. In Israel, as you study the book in the Old Testament, a real turning point came when the judges became so corrupt that they were a stench in the nose of God, and judgment came upon the country, and we are approaching that point. Jesus Christ self-identified as the way, the truth, and the life, and our leaders are flaunting each of those three characteristics of Christ. Not a way, but the way. Not a truth, but the truth. And the life. and life is under attack. You know, to me, all of this buzz, it's and I think we talked about it previously. All this buzz is not about abortion per se. The issue is life, and God as the author of life.
Yes,
And what we are doing is turning our back, and our legal system is turning its back on the sanctity of life. That is God's sacred threshold. And when a people start to slip over into worshiping death deities, and that's basically what we are edging toward, then there is certain judgment that comes, and that's my view.
But I couldn't say it better, and I really nothing I can add to that. I think you're square on there, and we are worshiping a cult of death. I mean, we're killing the elderly, we're killing the babies, we are allowing illegal immigrants, illegal aliens into this country to murder, to rape, to slaughter. Our streets are filled with violence. You can't even walk to your mailbox right now without fearing getting raped, mugged, or worse. It is truly the days of Noah. It's truly the days of light. And Christ warned us that when we see those kind of days, that his coming was nigh. And it will be so in the coming of the days of the Son of Man. I want to ask you a question. Let's change gears a minute. It's on the same topic, but give us the latest update. There's been rumblings tonight that Nasrallah has been killed. I don't know if you've heard anything of that nature. I've heard conflicting stories, but I do know that Israel took matters into their own hand today and bombed the Hezbollah building in Beirut. I watched the media reaction. It's typical media. Hezbollah is the victim, not Israel. That Israel's the aggressor. And if I was Israel tonight, I would stand up with a sign around my neck and saying, "You know what? I am the aggressor. I'm defending my nation. And if I'm Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't apologize for it. He didn't today, and he shouldn't, because Israel has been attacked unmercifully by this terrorist group. They were attacked. We're coming up on a year anniversary on October the 7th, which is a week from Tuesday, of this horrendous Hamas attack. We're going to have a special dedicated to the 1 year anniversary of that here on the network, and I'm sure you'll be part of that. But James, I don't think that they have been left with any choice to do this, and I think that it's just the beginning. And I know people are concerned that war is escalating. This war is not Israel's fault. Israel is strictly defending itself. And to me, look, I thought the pager thing was it was pretty genius to me. I thought it was pretty genius, but they took the pager situation off the table. They said, we're not gonna blow your pagers up. We're gonna blow your headquarters up. And that's what they did today. What say you about all that?
Well, what they did is Hezbollah headquarters, where Nasrallah resided, was buried deep under a residential section.
Yes, it was.
In the southern suburbs, and since the 90s, they have gradually tightened their stranglehold over that part of Beirut, so that ordinary citizens in Beirut can't even go into that section, and it is Hezbollah controlled to the nth degree. But get this, Chris. If the reports I am hearing are true, Israel dedicated a significant amount of its inventory of bunker-busting bombs, some 60 of them, targeted on this same site.
Yep.
And there were early reports floating in a couple Arab news channels that Nasrallah had survived the attack, but they quickly pulled those down. And if Nasrallah was alive, they would be trumpeting that to the high heavens. The longer the silence goes on, whether he's alive or not, the more certain it becomes that they nailed
him. Yeah.
And I studied Nasrallah in depth, and he's one of the more interesting figures. But uh, that Israel dedicated that much of their inventory and their intelligence to try to wipe him out is an indication to me that Nasrallah had crossed the line. He would never negotiate a reasonable peace in the southern part of Lebanon, and because they had danced around this for several years, but since October 7th, Nasrallah, and none of these news channels talk about this, and they certainly didn't talk about at the UN. Since October the 7th, Hezbollah has launched over 10,000 rockets and missiles into Israel.
Good Lord.
And Netanyahu said today in his speech, what country can stand idly by and let that happen?
None.
Would the United States allow Mexico to hit San Diego with 10,000 missiles and not do anything about it?
I would hope not.
And the southern half of California would be chased out because of the threat, and the United States wouldn't do anything about that? And Netanyahu posed that question directly. He was speaking, I heard sort of a post-mortem of his speech, and he was speaking to several constituencies, the Arab world, even though they weren't, but there's some indication that Nasrallah had gathered with his chief lieutenants to watch the speech. And that's how they knew he was going to be where he was going to be. And not only was it his chief lieutenants, but also some of the foremost IRGC Iranian operational types were reportedly in there as well.
Go ahead.
You got to give it to Israeli
intelligence. Absolutely.
They got the tipper, and they acted on it, and it wasn't just sort of a slap on the wrist. They went in there to try to do the job. And our own military, quite honestly, can take a lesson from that.
I was just about to say this. You can say what you want to about Israel. They do not play around with these terrorists, James. And they've been waiting for this moment. And it almost reminds me a little bit of the night that Trump bombed Syria when Z was at Mar-a-Lago and they were eating roast beef. And Trump leaned over to Z and said, by the way, how's your roast beef? It's great. I just bombed the hell out of Syria tonight for using nerve gas. Oh, and I can almost see Benjamin Netanyahu tonight, and while he's speaking, and like you said, the terrorists probably gathering around a television set thinking they were smart, and then bombs dropping over them. Look, I've got no sympathy for the terrorists tonight. Look, I pray all men are saved, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword, you follow blood, you're going to get blood. You follow the sword, you're going to get the sword. And this group, that's written right out of Ezekiel 35, because you have followed blood and you've pursued the blood of Israel, because you've pursued Israel with the sword and the blood is going to pursue you. That's biblical, James, and it's a God-given right. But I think the 10,000 rockets going into San Diego is a great analogy tonight. There is no way this government, even as left-wing as this government is tonight, I would think, I know this much, if they did allow that to happen and nothing was done about it, I think the American people, there would be such an uprising that there would be no coming back for the Democrat Party. You'd never have a Democrat president in this country ever again. And at least I believe that. I'm not sure about the messed up state of affairs with this nation. Let me ask you this. You said something, and I want to revisit something you said the other night on the show, because it's an intriguing dynamic to this. When Iran was ranching up its words against Israel, Hezbollah stood on the sidelines. And because Hezbollah was doing these, they asked Iran to come in and attack Israel, and Iran refused to get involved in this directly. Do you still see them sitting on the sidelines through this now, or do you think this is going to ranch it up to them, that they're going to try to jump into this fight and come to Hezbollah's aid at any time?
Well, it's interesting to see what the initial response was. That the Mullah leadership gathered in Tehran to discuss what was going to happen. About the only statement that's come out of the Iranian leadership is that assassination won't end the problem. There'll be somebody else that'll step up in terms of these organizations, and they go under their own code names. They don't call themselves terrorist groups. They are resistance groups. But the problem is, after this event, and after the pagers and the walkie-talkies, the next man up, assuming is either mortally wounded or severely wounded or dead, they're going to have trouble finding the next man.
Would you take the job if you were the next in line of Hezbollah after what's happened over the last 2 weeks over there? I wouldn't take it. Would you?
That whole strata of who's going to step up next, or well, and so that's one factor. But I'd like to sort of turn it back. What Israel faced in Hezbollah was on their northern border was really a unique problem.
Yes, it was.
Hezbollah was branded as a terrorist group after the Marine bombings killed, 700 of our people, and Hezbollah was directly involved in planning that.
I remember that.
The person that orchestrated that attack for Hezbollah, Ahmad Mugnaya, was eliminated at his girlfriend's house by the Israelis, and so you have a terrorist group back in the 90s when you had all these hijackings and this, that, and the other, and they resorted to these tactics that were purely terrorist in nature. But at the same time, Hezbollah became a legitimate political movement in Lebanon. They democratically elected several of their own members to be a part of the Lebanese government. They held important positions in the cabinet. They built hospitals, and they did this, that, and the other. So it presented a real quandary for the State Department, because you have a group that is overtly terrorist in its aims to wipe out Israel and to hit all sorts of U.S. diplomats in the region for a space of a decade. And then later on, they sort of morphed themselves into a government actor. And it caused all sorts of problems for the State Department. But all of that sort of dissipated when after October 7th, rather than criticizing Hamas for jumping the gun, which some people claim was going to be a widespread resistance action against Israel, and Hamas jumped the gun, Hezbollah, rather than criticizing Hamas, supported Hamas and started all of these volleys of missiles and the like into Israel.
Yeah.
How much of that could Israel absorb? That was Netanyahu's message to the UN.
I know.
We decided that we are going to take action to protect our own people, and they did. And so tonight, we do not know at this point. I have not heard anybody definitively say whether Nasrallah
is dead.
Or alive. But let me tell you, it is a huge loss. It's not a case of the next man up, even if they could find one. Nasrallah has headed that organization since the 90s.
Wow.
He was the architect, along with Mugnaya, of the 2006 war. It was his blunder, actually, that caused the war.
I remember that war.
And he went on record saying, if he had known what it would have cost Hezbollah, the group, and Lebanon, the country, by his miscalculation when he kidnapped some Israeli soldiers and brought them back and took them captive, and that's what caused that war, he said he would have never done it. And so he has been one of those players in the Middle East that has always put the welfare of Hezbollah, the organization, ahead of the other ambitions in the region, including the Iranians. But it was Hezbollah, actually, that kept the Syrian regime afloat. They lost tens of thousands of their own members fighting in Syria. You know, they were the ones, really, they were the shock troops that kept the Arab Spring from bouncing the Syrian leader out of Damascus on his ear. And so Hezbollah is a really interesting group to study. Are they ruthless? Absolutely. Are they still dedicated to the concept of wiping out Israel and all the Jews and pushing them into the sea? Absolutely. Are they reproachable for that, if nothing else? Absolutely. And tonight, man, Israel just said, world, I don't care what your opinion of us will be. We are going to take it to them. And at the very same time that Netanyahu is speaking before the UN, decision has been made to Israel.
No, you gotta give it, man. You gotta give it to Israel. You gotta give it to the Israeli military and Benjamin Netanyahu. You gotta give it to the Mossad. I know that's a dirty word over here by some of these Q folks. But let me tell you this, James. I want to say it again tonight. I want to make it clear about this network. We're on Israel's side, and all these anti-Semites out there that pose as prophets and prophets that pose as anti-Semites or whatever, the vice versa, and all these preachers and all these godless teachers and godless people that stand behind pulpits and networks and condemn Israel for this tonight. Let me make it abundantly clear where the McFiles stands tonight. I'm all in, and I'm so grateful that they had the ingenuity. And I guarantee you there's three things are going to not happen ever again with Hezbollah. They're never going to use a walkie-talkie. They're never going to use a pager again. And they're not going to watch another UN speech by Benjamin Netanyahu without the fear of a bomb dropping in their living room. Is that correct?
That's a good way to put it. I've heard a number of and you get into this broader theological debate about replacement theory and this, that, and the other, and with Israel. But the admonition in the Old Testament still stands. He who blesses, and it's talking about countries.
Yes, it is.
Individuals are judged according to what they do with Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Countries are judged by what they do with the nation state of Israel.
Bingo! But I'd be willing to put a Cincinnati Reds hat and become a Reds fan on that statement tonight. You You just made me want to become a Reds fan all of a sudden. No, that's bingo. James. You nailed it. You nailed it to the wall right there. I want you to say that again. Our personal walk of eternity is based upon our relationship with Jesus, but God judges nations by how they handle Israel. My friend, you know more than most doctorate prepared Bible teachers that are out there tonight, and you've just made more sense theologically than half or three-fourths of the apostate churches made in 30 years. I couldn't amen you more. Listen, I know your phone you out of power. Are you still without power tonight? Are you doing this in the dark?
No, right now I'm sitting here in the dark. I've got a flashlight sitting in my lap, and I told you earlier, I feel in Beirut tonight.
You feel like you're in Beirut? Well, I tell you, man, half of America, that East Coast looks about like Beirut right now with this damage. Hey, a couple of quick fire questions for you. I'm going to let you go, and we're going to get you back on next week. We've got you pinned in every week, probably till Jesus comes. But I do want to ask you a couple of quick fire questions, sort of on the topic, but off. What was your thinking today? What was your thoughts about Trump meeting with Zelenskyy and trying to? I don't know what you. I was sort of taken aback. Zelensky's been around there just trashing Trump and Vance all week long. Would you have even give him the time of day if you'd have been Trump?
Well, I mean, that's Trump. He does a lot of things I really don't understand. Zelenskyy had become the poster boy for the Harris campaign by going to Pennsylvania and putting on that sort of photo show, and in a swing state. And I know a lot of conservatives were up in arms about, that is directly election interference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Trump, I'm not sure Zelenskyy was going to meet with Trump until Trump released that letter or communication or whatever it was, where Zelenskyy asked to meet with him. And so he sort of turned it on its head, and then at the presser afterwards, he gave sort of Zelenskyy a left-handed compliment by saying that he helped keep.
Well, he said he was going through a lot. I mean, he was almost sympathetic to Zelensky's peril, and then Zelenskyy got ticked off when he made the statement with Vladimir Putin and I have a good relationship. Zelenskyy can't have this both ways. You can't come over to this country and rape this country for billions and trillions of dollars and then expect Donald Trump to pat you on the back for doing it. And most Americans, I guarantee you this, if the Democrat Party thinks Ukraine is a winning platform for them, I can tell you right now, a majority of this nation is sick to their stomach as what the money that has flowed out of the treasuries of this country to that extortion-based nation of Ukraine. That is one of the most corrupt nations on the face of this earth, short of North Korea and China. And that's my opinion. And, it's one of those prove me wrong things. Zelenskyy is a puppet. And I don't know how many people are playing him. But it is a disgrace to me, James, what we've done and the money that we have let go out of this country to this basically homo actor. And I don't mean that lightly tonight. I mean this, and it's pathetic. And I'm with you. It is election interference. He had no business being over here campaigning for either candidate. Is that not what they impeached Trump for when he made a phone call back in 2020?
Was that Trump intervened in the Ukraine?
Exactly.
I'm telling you. But now let me throw my 2 cents worth in on this. I do not know why the elites, many of the elites, especially in the military-industrial complex in this country, are absolutely determined to force a war with Russia.
That's a great point.
I do not understand the logic of that.
I never have.
There are so many other trouble spots around the world, and there are so many other things that we could have spent that money for. We could have shored up Taiwan's defenses with some of that money, our allies in the Pacific. Heaven knows we could have given some more to Israel. Reports are that we are still, even though the Biden administration ballyhooed this, 6.8 billion going to Israel, they are still withholding some very key items of weaponry from Israel, and so there's sort of a two-faced policy when it comes to Israel, when it comes to Ukraine. I think the House Republicans managed to merge the two. But there is something that's going on with the elites that are absolutely determined to force war and force Putin into a corner. I am the last person to feel sorry for Putin. He is a ruthless
I'm with
thug.
you. I'm with you.
He is a ruthless thug. And the fact that he's a former intel type, and the fact that he's leading a country that's bristling with nuclear missiles, it just causes me to just pull my hair out sometimes.
But James, let me say this.
Here's the danger, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going. Go. You're fine.
Here is the danger, and this is James Akers, and I'll be the first to apologize if I'm wrong. If Kamala Harris gets in office, I think certainly when it comes to foreign affairs, she's an empty suit. And we are going to have elites in the background making the decisions. You're going to have an unelected group of elites, because she can't make the decisions herself, making all the decisions. And these elites are determined to force us into a war with Russia.
They are.
And I see that as one of those, Will Robinson, danger, or the robot, Will Robinson, danger. I can just see the flashing red lights for the future in all of that. Having said that, what the Ukrainian troops have done, you have to admire them. They fought the Russians to a standstill and better, despite the fact that all of this money has been siphoned off and gone into other pockets that should have gone to them on the battlefield.
Yep.
They have done a remarkable job. But it's not the bravery of the Ukrainians that are at question here. It is this behind-the-scenes push to force us into a war with Russia that I just do not understand the logic of.
Let me ask you this, and I forgot to ask you this a while ago about Iran. I'm going to go back to them. I'll let you go. What do you make of this report out there that they had missiles to shoot down Trump's plane? The Department of Justice, or the non-justice, whatever it is tonight, I don't call it the Department of Justice, but anyway, they arrested 3 Iranians for hacking into the Trump campaign, but that to me wasn't the big story. The big story was this report that these missiles had been brought into the country with Iranian handprints on them to shoot down his plane. James, has this reached a level? Is that not an act of war to you? To me, that's an act of war. That you're starting to try to assassinate political candidates, buddy. I don't care what party you are out there tonight. I guarantee you they wouldn't put up with this if they were targeting Kamala Harris like this. I guarantee you that the United States would be reacting very violently toward Iran tonight if that was found out to be true. No, Chris's opinion.
Yeah, no, and I sent you that report, and it came through X from a very reputable journalist
yes.
who she can't
Laura
get
Logan. Yeah.
she can't get into the mainstream media because they won't touch her. But so she has to go through X and these other platforms. But but she has a line of information that consistently proves to be pretty close to the mark. And so her idea that these groups with specifically with missiles to shoot down Trump's aircraft have been smuggled into the country, and it's not just one team. The way she talked, the way I understand the report, it's several teams. And if that doesn't, set off alarm bells somewhere, what is it going to take?
Nothing.
I mean, somebody shoots down his plane, and then are they going to say, "Oh, we should have paid more attention," I guess, to this threat?
No, I tell you what they're going to do. They're going to blame him, just like these ugly, demonic, damnable Democrats are doing tonight, still out there calling him Hitler, a threat to democracy, needs to be taken out. They're never held accountable for their rhetoric, James. We could not say those same things about Kamala Harris. If we said the same thing about Kamala Harris on this network, I'd get a knock at my door tonight. I'm telling you, we can't do that. But they can say all these ugly things about Trump, and there can be members on the Senate floor saying this and representatives, and nothing is done to them. My personal opinion, if somebody in Congress is found to have said that, they should be expelled immediately. They're not going to be. They're applauded by the media. And to me, if a media person goes out and starts insinuating that it was okay to do what they did, assassinating Trump, look, I'm all about free speech, but we don't have free speech in this country because the right cannot say the same things without there being an uproar. And the left can say all sorts of things they want to about Donald Trump, and it's acceptable because Trump's a bad guy and orange man bad, and Trump's a Nazi and Trump's Hitler and Trump's a threat to democracy and all this other bullshit. And it burns me to the gore. But I'm with you tonight. Listen, hang loose next week. We're going to pick this up. I got a feeling. Every time I let you go for a few days, the world gets on the brink of Armageddon, Acre. So you're going to have to cut this out, and stop pushing these buttons and causing all this. Hey, you got 3 minutes. Wrap us up. Final thoughts. It's good stuff tonight. I guess as of right now, as of 9:02 Central, 10:02 Eastern, we do not know whether what was that commercial in the 70s? Remember that commercial in the 70s? It's 11 o'clock to where Idi Amin is. Remember that? I remember that commercial as a kid to this day. And my dad and mama started laughing. There's a commercial coming on tonight. It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where Nasrallah is? And nobody knows, do we?
Yeah, or remember the old Saturday Night Live skits and routines about Franco, Generalissimo Franco.
Yes.
Is still alive, that really dates some of the people that are listening to me right now to go back to those years. But Chris, thank you so much. It is always an honor for me to appear on the program and to give you what I think. It's always unvarnished, and I may be off the mark and willing to admit that, but I really feel these things, and especially the drift of our country. And it amazes me that people disguise their disrespect for our country in robes of hatred for Trump. You know, it really is a hatred for all the values that I know I've talked to you several times that I think we stand for mutually. We stand for a country that's unlike any other country that has ever existed, was founded on firm Judeo-Christian values. And the further we drift away from that, and even if many people are personifying it as a hatred for one person or another, the more it works to the detriment of this great country, and we are positioning ourselves. We are inviting the judgment of God by electing leaders that absolutely thumb their nose in the face of Christian values. And we are going to pay a price for that, and we're going to see these earthquakes and these natural disasters are going to increase in tempo. And we're going to see judges make these decisions that fly in the face of common sense because they are deluded. And it is a country that I served in war, and I served in diplomatic ranks and in intelligence service. And sometimes my stomach just turns at what goes on. And then when I get really wrapped around the axle of it, I have to sit down and think, the God of this universe is a good God.
Yes, he is, buddy. Yes, he is.
I am responsible for being his ambassador in this world. And so there are some links that I just can't go to in good conscience in talking about the other side. But, I would encourage the listeners, the way is Jesus Christ and him crucified. And in that cross and in that atonement is everything
we
need to live your life. And I encourage you to choose that road.
Well, buddy, you'll get hazard pay for doing this interview in the dark tonight, and the check's in the mail, okay? Thank you for being with me tonight, man. God bless you, friend. I really appreciate you much. I love you like a brother. And listen, I'll be in touch with you first of the week. We'll do this again, okay? God bless, friend.
Sounds good. Always a pleasure, Chris. God bless.
You too, James. Good night, buddy. James Akers, everybody. We are so grateful that he was able to come on tonight and give us an insight, because this really is the story. This really is a story right now that is circulating and so forth. We're going to read an article by the World Israeli News, and then I'm going to have a few comments about the hurricane tonight, and we're going to take your questions. We're not going to keep you too much longer tonight on a Friday night. There's so much of this that we can talk about. There's Benjamin Netanyahu today. You see the sign there, the blessing and the curse. He literally laid it on the table, put the pedal to the metal, and didn't pull no punches today at the UN. But I want you to look at the wording. And I see Jason Miller out in the house. I swear Miller's rubbing off on me, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I see these things, and I always said pick these things up. But look at the headline tonight, folks. I want you to look at this headline. Netanyahu declares that UN, the torch of Israel, will shine forever. I saw that headline today, and I like to jump out of my shirt, literally. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And this is the article. No army has done more to protect civilians than Israel, he said, defending the nation's action in Gaza. Netanyahu addressed the United Nations General Assembly today, focusing mainly on the continuing violence in Lebanon and the threat posed by Iran. Netanyahu's speech came just days after U.S. Joe Biden addressed the General Assembly, emphasizing the United States' support for Israel in the face of recent escalations. He called for an end to the war, demanding that Hamas disarm and release all hostages. Only nursing home Joe Biden would be so stupid to believe that Hamas will do any of the above. The Prime Minister began by condemning the attacks on October the 7th, which we're coming up on the year anniversary of that in 10 days, when terrorists infiltrated Israel, committing what he described as unimaginable atrocities. He vowed, quote, "We will not rest until the remaining hostages are safely returned." Accompanied by family members of the hostages, Netanyahu pledged, "We will bring your loved ones home. We will not stop until this mission is accomplished." He emphasized the pivotal choices facing the Middle East, presenting two potential futures, one of normalization with Arab nations and the other of ongoing conflict fueled by Iran and its allies. Israel seeks peace, and Israel will make peace again, he declared, underscoring Israel's commitment to stability in the region. I got to say something about that tonight. And if you were with us in our Bible study this week, we have actually been studying this covenant of peace that the Antichrist is going to sign. We sort of regressed a little bit today because we were talking about some other things as it relates to the events leading up to that vision. But Monday and Tuesday, or whenever we're on next week, we're going to deal with that peace treaty or that covenant that he makes with many. Israel is seeking peace tonight at all costs. It is sadly going to be the noose that's going to be hung around their neck because they will accept peace from a false Messiah, an impostor. And they will think he is the true Prince of Peace when he is nothing but the idle shepherd, the king of Babylon, the king of fierce countenance, the cruel one, the extortioner, the wicked, the man of sin. John calls him the Antichrist. She will accept that offer of peace from him. Now, for those of you that don't believe in the rapture, don't believe in end-time eschatology, that just went right over your head. So just, you can go twiddle your thumbs and do your needle stitch while I'm talking about this, because this won't mean a thing to you. But there's many of you out there that understand what I'm talking about is true because the Bible says it's true. And I'm here to tell you tonight, folks, that echoing of that sentiment was heard in Benjamin Netanyahu's voice today. They're looking for peace. And again, it's a noble pursuit. There's nothing wrong with what Benjamin Netanyahu said today. But this pursuit of peace by Israel is never going to be fulfilled fully until Jesus Christ himself comes back to this earth and saves her from the clutches of this impostor. The seeds are being planted tonight, folks. Everything that's happening tonight on this earth, the Hezbollah bombing, Nasrallah, Iran, Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq's beginning to rev up its rhetoric. It's all prophetic. It's all prophetic. It's all prophetic. And we're getting ready. We're getting ready. We're getting ready. We're getting ready. And let me go back to this article. He was saying Israel wants peace at all costs. And folks, listen to me while I'm talking. I'll take your questions at the end, please. No paragraphs. Listen to me. Let others listen. And listen to this. Turning his attention to Iran, Netanyahu criticized the global community for its leniency toward Tehran, saying Iran funds terror networks across 5 continents. The world has appeased Iran for too long. The appeasement must end now. He called on the UN Security Council to halt support for Iran and ensure that it never acquires nuclear weapons. And I hate to tell Mr. Netanyahu that's not going to happen. If you strike us, we will strike you. We will reach every corner of the Middle East. Folks, that is a promise. Biden highlighted the humanitarian crisis, of course he would, in Gaza, accusing Hamas of exploiting and aid meant for civilians. Terrorists steal food, and he goes on to condemn them, but he also condemned Israel. And so forth. This newspaper is a lot more sympathetic to Joe Biden than I would be. But I want to say it like this, that in this speech, one of the statements that he made was right here, that the torch of Israel will shine forever. Aman Yisrael High. Let me say something about that tonight as I do the second part of this. We're not going to be long. We're going to take your questions, and I'm going to leave you out. We're going to pick this up next week. Trust me, all this is going to be news next week. When I watch this hurricane, I'm a weather person. I've been following this storm that has come up in the Gulf and has wreaked total havoc. My where I live right now is Tennessee. My home state of Georgia is underwater tonight. Tennessee's underwater. We've had I get notice of my security, and we are out of power in Tennessee tonight. My neighbor's out of power, my whole subdivision. Power poles are down. Strong winds rocked East Tennessee this morning into this afternoon. It went into North Carolina. Nearly 18 inches of rain have fallen. Asheville, North Carolina is underwater. Many, many tornadoes have wreaked damage this afternoon with these spin-ups off the spin-up of the hurricane. This has reached as far north as Lexington, Kentucky, and now Ohio. James is out without power tonight because of the high winds from the storm. That's how big this wind field has gotten. When I saw this thing explode yesterday, I was curious. I was really curious about what Helene meant, and I did a word search of it. And it is a Greek term that is defined as torchbearer, and the shining light and torchbearer. And I could not help but think this afternoon, when I saw this headline, I jumped. I literally jumped up and I said, holy smokes. What is the chances? What are the chances that Benjamin Netanyahu would use that word in a speech? And I've got no belief that Benjamin Netanyahu went and researched what Helene meant. I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu even understands this fully. I like Benjamin Netanyahu, but I don't think he even understands that everything that's going on in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu don't control. God's in control of it. That land does not belong to Israel. That land don't belong to America. That land don't belong to the United Nations. That land belongs to God. And God is going to be the final say-so and the arbiter of who possesses that land at some point. But this hurricane that hit this country, there's a verse in Obadiah, as you have done to Israel, so shall it be done unto you. Now this World Israeli News, they were highlighting the positive things that Joe Biden did not say a lot of positive things about Israel in that UN speech. And he's been out there condemning Israel. There's another news source in Israel that has painted the other side of this, and it's a lot uglier. And he is basically calling for an arms embargo and this cutting off of aid. Has anybody stopped to understand why we've got economy meltdowns in this country? Have we stopped to ask ourselves the question, why is our economy in the state it's in? Why are we struggling to buy groceries? Why are we struggling to buy gas? By the way, it's election season, so if the gas is going down, don't be fooled by that. The Fed's got in the elections this week, lowering the interest rates of 0.5 point, strictly for election purposes to make Kamala act like the great savior. Oh, she's got Jesus tonight. She's going down to the border this week to finally go down to the border for the first time in 4 years. Of course, it's election time. We're a month from the election. But anyway, that's another story. But listen to me. America's tried to cripple Israel's economy, folks, through this. We're holding financial aid to Israel. We're withholding aid to her. We're withholding arms to her tonight. We're tying her hands behind her back and telling her you can't go defend your country. And Benjamin Netanyahu basically unwrapped his hands tonight and put his middle finger up to America, as he should in every other nation. He basically told him today, we're going to do what we got to do. And you heard what James said about it tonight. Israel's not going to play around, folks. Look, this pager thing last week should have told the world. It should have told the Hezbollah terrorists, your days are numbered. And if what James is saying is true, and I don't doubt it, that if they knew that Nasrallah was basically watching Netanyahu on television at a friend's house, and they picked that time of the speech to bomb him, I can just see Jason Miller out there laughing right now so much he's probably falling on the ground, and I'm about to laugh with him. That's Israel, folks. They don't mess around with terrorists. They don't let terrorists bully them. We can't even stand up to illegal aliens in this country that are coming in and doing the same thing. And then you got stupid Kamala Harris telling us that being an illegal alien is not illegal. If that ain't the most dumbest thing I've ever heard, that's about as dumb as the Christians out there was telling everybody that Halloween was falling on Friday, October the 13th. First time it had happened in 666 years. Liberalism and some of these people with these kind of spirits, it's a mental disorder. Liberalism is a mental disorder. And people with this Q spirit and this crazy faith, whatever you call it, it's a mental disorder. It's no different. No different. But no, that's what she said. She said, being an illegal alien, you're not coming in here, you're not breaking the law. Well, that's an oxymoron, is it not? As we have done to Israel, folks, we're not letting Israel defend her borders, are we? Guess what's happening over here? We can't defend ours. We're withholding money from Israel tonight. Guess what's happening to this economy? It's crashing. It's crashing. We've withheld arms from Israel to protect herself, and now we can't protect ourselves. Some of you are so scared you can't even go to the mailbox without, again, being worried about being mugged, raped, or robbed, or worse. Can't go to a grocery store without the thought in your mind, who's going to walk in here and blow the place to smithereens? You can't go to a post office. You can't go anywhere without wondering, is this my day? You can't sit down and eat a hamburger at a restaurant worried that somebody's going to get mad at the special sauce and pull a gun out and start shooting the hell out of everybody. We've become Beirut. You're talking about Beirut tonight, folks. America's become Beirut. America's become a violent landscape of nothing but terrorism within our own border. And then these illegals are raping and murdering and killing our young. They're killing these young girls, these young boys. They're raping and murdering. We've never seen the crime rate spike. And on top of everything else, something else is happening. We have tried to destabilize Israel's government, haven't we? Guess what's happening over here? Our government is facing corruption like it's never faced before. You've got the mayor of the biggest city in America under indictment tonight for bribery and conspiracy and other charges. And he's out there putting a spin on it and telling everybody it's just an attack and it's just fake news and I'm not guilty of this. Okay, Eric, we'll prove it. We're going to talk to Jennifer Harrison about all that next week. As we have done to Israel, folks, it's been done to us. And if you don't think that this hurricane that came up through this Gulf has ties to Israel, that's up to you. You don't have to perceive what I'm saying to you tonight, folks. It was God's warning to us. I watched this thing all day yesterday, and where I'm at, it was headed straight right where I'm at. And the course had changed westerly. Westerly, it was on a more westward track. My brother was in direct line of this thing. My sister, my son, they all evacuated thinking it was going to hit exactly where they was at, my grandkids. And all of a sudden, yesterday afternoon, this thing shifted. And I told the Bible students this morning, and I'm about done. I got a lot more to say, but it's getting late. I sat on the side of my bed this morning, and as I was getting up, it hit me. I saw the map of Florida. It was just like this probably 10-second vision of the state of Florida, and I watched this thing go in. And I'm from there. I lived there for many years, and I know that area of the Big Bend where this thing went in. And it hit me this morning that it was a warning judgment, but it was mercy. There was mercy in this storm. And I know that a lot of people are saying, well, 42 people are dead. How is that mercy? Folks, it could have been 4,200. I'll tell you why. Those winds were 140 miles an hour. Had that hurricane come to that capital city of Florida, there's 3 to 4 million people in Tallahassee tonight. And these towns that it would have affected in that wind field, there were multiple millions of people that lived in that region. Where it went in at Cedar Key, yeah, there were businesses over there. Yes, there are people that live there. Perry is a small town in northeast Florida. It got hammered, and I talked to Brian Warren just tonight, and they said, him and Gina said this morning around 2 a.m., St. Augustine and that area over there near Jacksonville started getting rocked this morning around 2 a.m., and that thing just took up. When God shifted that storm east, folks, he spared one of the biggest cities in Florida. He spared it. He spared my family. He spared people that I love dearly from the main thrust of these winds. But he spared a lot of families from that. It was mercy. It was a warning, but it was mercy. It was a warning, but it's mercy. Do you think that this has changed a thing in this country tonight? Do you think that even in this destructive monster of a storm, that was biblical in all aspects of it, the largest, the fastest, and the strongest that we've seen in this nation in 120 years, and in some cases period, ever. The scope of this was biblical. It had a tie to Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu probably had no idea what was totally going on with this hurricane. He gets up there today at the UN and says Israel is a torch that will shine forever. He's right. She's in for hell itself shortly. She's about to face hell itself from this coming man of sin. She's going to accept a false impostor. But when the smoke clears, Israel will still be here. I can tell you this tonight. I don't have my map with me, but that part of that image to your left that represents America, there ain't no promise of that for us. There is no promise in God's word. Israel is mentioned 770 times. I'm reading the book of Jeremiah. I'm getting so blessed by it, but yet it scares me to death to read the words of this prophet, because I look at what Jeremiah was warning Israel about before she went into Babylonian captivity. And if you took Israel out and put America in those passages in Jeremiah, it would send a chill up your back. And let me do this. I want to send this picture. If you'll give me 1 second, I want to send this picture because I want to show you a couple of things. Dory West mentioned this morning, and Cleo sent this picture this afternoon or evening that sort of confirmed what Dory had sent. But it was about, this is about another torch that is burning tonight. And there it is right there. Let me download this. Let me show you this picture tonight. When Benjamin Netanyahu was talking about the torch of Israel never going out, let me show you another torch tonight. Let me show you another torch tonight. This is the Olympic flag. This was something that somebody posted, and it had bullet holes in it. I'm not sure if this was a vision or something. You see the torch in that lady's hand? That's Lady Liberty. She's got a torch. She's got a torch. And I will tell you this tonight, folks. You can believe this or not. And like James says, you can disagree. You can go your own way and say, Chris is just a fool. I've been called worse this year, trust me. The torch in that lady's hand, there's no guarantee that one's not going out. We're on the precipice of something tonight, folks. I think James basically said it. If this election goes the wrong way in November, this torch may not be burning much longer. And even if Trump gets elected, our fight to keep this torch burning is going to be intense. And all hell is coming to this country because I feel it. I just got it in my gut. The most dangerous time of this country will be from November the 5th to January the 20th, when he puts his hand on that Bible. Because, or whenever the day in January, the first Tuesday in January, when he takes the oath of office. That will be the most dangerous 90 days this country has ever faced. Don't think that the name of this hurricane got lost on me, and it sure didn't get lost on me today when I heard Benjamin Netanyahu say, the torch of Israel is never going to go out. He was right. Now, he may not understand what that's going to cost and what that's going to entail, because at the end, there's going to be tremendous bloodshed in the Middle East before there's blessing, and tremendous death before there's blessing, tremendous darkness before the light of Jesus shines and he comes back. Israel's darkest days are ahead of her. Her darkest moments are ahead. They're not behind her. And she has faced unprecedented hell. She's facing it tonight. The world is turning their back on her. I warn this nation, we will either let our torch of liberty burn bright and do the right thing by God's chosen. I love what James said tonight. God judges nations by how we handle Israel, folks. Let me give you a little Bible nugget, as my Bible students love to hear me say in the mornings. The judgment of nations in Matthew 25, about the sheep and the goats. You hear about that a lot, all these biblically illiterate prophets and biblically illiterate teachers and biblically illiterate people that claim they know everything, but yet they're as spiritually illiterate as a kindergartner trying to figure out an algebra test. Let me tell you this. The sheep and the goats, folks, the sheep and the goats, It's not about whether those are on the Q side or the non-Q side. The sheep and the goats have nothing to do with people in general. What it does have to do is with nations. And you know what the criteria for that judgment will be in Matthew 25? Is how these nations handled the nation of Israel and who stood with them during the time of the Antichrist and who did not. Some of them will probably not stand with her. They just won't fight with the Antichrist. There will be some nations that will not fight with him against her. But many will. And those are going to be the goat nations of Matthew 25, and those that do not overtly attack Israel during that time of her peril and travail will be the sheep nations and will go into the millennial kingdom. Now, again, you don't have to believe Chris. Many don't. They think I'm just blathering a bunch of stuff. It's right out of the Bible, that wonderful book, the Bible, if we would just read it. But this is real-time stuff tonight, folks. We were given a warning last night, and in that warning, God showed mercy. 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 Jerusalem. Jason, it is USA's in the middle of it, but it's not the key word. The key word in Jerusalem is Salem, my friend. Salem means peace. And only the Prince of Peace. When we say pray for the peace of Jerusalem, folks, you know what we're praying for? There's no peace coming to Jerusalem until the Prince of Peace comes back. And I can tell you this much tonight, the USA can't bring peace there. The USA can't bring peace. Our future is tied to that nation on the right on this flag tonight. And if the USA plans to be part of Jerusalem, our leadership had better come to grips with that and find an altar and repent tonight before God, because what we're doing to Israel is going on right now in this country. We're literally bringing judgment on our country about what we're doing to her. And if there was no greater message sent to this country over the last 48 hours, ask the people in North Carolina tonight, ask the people in Georgia, ask the people in Florida, ask the people in Kentucky, ask the people in Ohio, ask the people in Virginia that this monster storm raged like a train up the East Coast this morning and last night with wind, hail, tornadoes. And this storm surge in Cedar Key was unlike any I'd ever heard about in my lifetime. It's biblical. It was biblical. All righty. I could say more. I'm done. I've got some videos. But anyway, I will save this till next week. If you've got a question, we're now opening it up for questions. And if you got a question, you got a comment about what we've talked about tonight, please put it in the house. We got a lot we didn't get to tonight, but we will get to it next week. And we've got some video. Anyway, any question you got about 10 minutes, and we're going to wrap it up on this week. And I do have a ton of videos I wish I could show you, but I'm running out of time rapidly tonight. I'm running out of time. Got a question? If you got a question tonight, any questions? Carol, I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him who cursed thee. Bless and cursing. Netanyahu referenced. He did, Carol. Isn't that interesting? That when he made the speech about the torch, he basically quoted Genesis 12:3, didn't he? And from what I gathered, he was likening the blessing side to those that did not support terrorism, the curse side that those that did. The way I look at it, when America stabs Israel in the back, we're basically giving a heads up to the terrorists, folks. We're putting ourselves on the curse side. And you say, what's the curse side? Read Deuteronomy 28. It's not a pretty picture, what God told Israel he would do to her in cursing her if she strayed from him. Not a good picture. Not a good picture. Everything that Israel would touch would disintegrate. Its economy, They would flee from their enemies instead of pursuing their enemies. They'd flee from their enemies. A foreigner, he said, foreigners would overrun your border. You read Deuteronomy 28, folks, and you read the cursed part of that chapter. It's like reading the newspapers of America this morning or this evening. It's morning somewhere over there in the world, somewhere, I guess. But very true. Very true, Carol. Very true. Didn't mean to delete your comment there, Carol. But you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Didn't mean to delete. If you got a question, folks, if you got a question, well said, Miss Smith. Apple. Hadn't thrown Carol Smith an apple on the Bible study recently. I'll give you 2 for that one. He referenced it. He absolutely did. He absolutely did. Anything else tonight? Real quick. Any questions, folks? You got about 10 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. If you got a question. Jason Miller, when you turn the word destruction backwards, the word cursed appears. Very interesting there. Exactly it does, don't it, Jason? It does. It does, it does, it does. Let's see here. I do want to play one video real quick. Did y'all hear about this kid? CNN is probably not going to be interviewing any more kids about Kamala Harris after this one. I did have to play this one tonight. We're going to pick these videos up Monday because we've got a ton of them. Monday and Tuesday. Watch this youngin'. This kid deserves an apple too, Carol Smith. Watch this.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
Oh!
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
Can I adopt that kid? I want to adopt that youngin'. Somebody find that youngin'.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
Thank you, kid. Let me ask you a question tonight, folks. Why can a child of that age understand that, and biblical Christians that claim they know Christ can't? Why do Christians that claim they're so spiritual can't see that? I salute you, youngin', whoever you are. I bet CNN won't be, I bet they won't be interviewing him again. Jay, I don't want to talk about this food stamp program. Please keep questions on topic tonight, folks. Jennifer says, I guess the leader of Hezbollah going out, that there are no 72 versions waiting for him. That is very true, Jennifer. Just like all those pagers that blew up last week, probably didn't figure they were any waiting for them either. Dennis Floyd, if Trump wins, don't you think he will supply Israel with all the weapons they need? Absolutely, Dennis. And I want to tell you something else going to happen. Hezbollah and Hamas are going to knock this nonsense off. They would have never done this, Dennis. I firmly believe this. They would have never done this had Trump been in office. I believe that they would not have done this. I think they'd have been too scared. I think they knew Trump would have, I put it like this. I personally believe that we would have had troops over there finding these hostages. The second Hamas took in American hostages, that to me was an act of war. Now, James is a little bit more sheepish about that. Chris ain't a diplomat. I don't care. You're not going to mess with my people. If I was president tonight and another foreign nation kidnapped my citizens, they would be given 24 hours to return those citizens, or I would be put in a freaking hole in Gaza the size of Texas, California, Florida, and Rhode Island combined. Might even put one, because it's not that big a landmass. But they would understand you do not kidnap American citizens. We've given them carte blanche, Janice. They think they can do anything they want to with this administration. They ain't going to do nothing. Hell, this administration is going to sit there and applaud him and saying, Viva Hamas! Israel's the aggressor. Israel's the apartheid state. That's what we're hearing. That's what we're being told tonight by this government. No, I firmly believe Trump will furnish them with weapons. And I firmly believe that this would have never happened if Trump would have been in office. And Roger, it is out of the mouth of babes. That kid's a smart kid, isn't he? That kid is a smart kid. Anyway, any other further statements? Real quick. 0 wars, Jason, from 2016 to 2020. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. 2016 to 2020, no wars. No wars. And I think you heard James tonight, folks. They're salivating for a war. We may very well be in war with Russia. We're at an hour 29. I've given you an hour and a half on a Friday night. I appreciate all of you being with me tonight. I want to thank Cleo out there moderating tonight. And good to see everybody in the house. And Jennifer says, I don't understand where the outrage is that they kidnapped American citizens. Where the outrage is, Jennifer, it's the same spirit of why Christians are out there condemning Israel. And Christians can't even see the difference. You got Christians out there asking the question, they don't see any difference between Kamala Harris and Trump's policies. I mean, what kind of messed up, mind-blowing, meth-induced, spiritual meth spirit is that? I mean, what kind of spirit is controlling it? Why is there no outrage? Because people are just full of the devil. I'll give you my take on it. Now, that may be a little bit more complicated than that simplistic view, but I'll just say it like I believe it, Jen. They're just full of the devil. That's why. I can guarantee you, that's why McDonald ain't president tonight. This probably good reason McDonald ain't president. I would not allow it. I just wouldn't. There's just certain things that you don't do. You don't kidnap American citizens in mass and then expect me to sit there and take it and tell you it's okay. Israel's the problem, not you. And you bring them back when you bring our hostages back whenever you can. And folks, can I tell you something about a hostage take? What they're finding out, they found this out when they returned those 6 hostages just a month ago, folks, and it should have woke us up, but it didn't. That 23-year-old Israeli-American that they brought back his body was bullet-ridden. All of those hostages were shot in the head, and the autopsies basically showed that they were dead within days after being taken. Look, I'm with James Akers. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to bring myself to say that all these hostages are dead. Ruth Guggenheim said the same thing. We don't hope for that. We don't want to believe that. We want to hold out hope because there are families that are listening to us tonight that they've got family members that are still behind enemy lines, and we're praying to God they're still alive. But you're not dealing with a sane group of people in Hamas. You're dealing with butchers and killers. You're dealing with butchers and killers. So, I'm with you on that. Yeah. Anyway, all right. I think that's about it. Corey Aguilar says, wouldn't this be the exact reason why Iran is trying to off Trump? I would say so, Corey. Yeah, I would say so. They're trying to off him for some reason, ain't they? I guarantee you, they don't want the sheriff in town to come back. They don't. They really don't. But if he comes back, he's going to pause a lot of this stuff. I'm not saying he's going to stop it, but it will be paused. I know that. I think they will realize he's a lame duck, and that's going to make him even scarier because he ain't got nothing to lose at that point. He's a lame duck president no matter what. And so interesting next few months. Did you get something out of this tonight? Put some fire in that house. If you enjoyed the show, we're grateful that you've been with us tonight. And we will be coming back with you Sunday morning and Sunday night, but maybe Sunday night. But we're gonna Be here the weekend for the faith service, and then Monday night will be our next show on the News Network. God bless you. God bless your families. We need to pray for Israel, folks. Pray for the Middle East. Pray for America. Pray for your country. Our prayers for all these victims of this hurricane, folks, the dead, the families of the dead, the flooded victims. It's going to take billions of dollars. This is going to be a billion or $1 trillion cleanup. This damage in the hills of East Tennessee and North Carolina is just absolutely devastating. And our prayers with all you folks, Carolinas, Virginia, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. All of these areas are needing our prayers tonight. Listen, may the Lord bless you. Thank you for being with us. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. And we will talk to you and see you when we see you. Until the weekend, have a good night, everybody. Prayers. Thank you, James Akers, for being with us. Good night, everybody.